All right. Ooh,
Wow.
goodness. Okay, that means everyone out there can hear us as well, so that's good to know. So welcome, everyone. This is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District Committee. Today is Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021. It is 6:38 p.m. We are here in the PVRS library, and we're also on Google Meet as well. There's a link to view the school committee meeting on our website at pvrsdk-12.org, or you can go to facebook.com/BNCTV. The public has been welcome to attend in person or via Google Meet. But in the event that there's an issue with the Google Meet, the public meeting in person shall continue to proceed. This meeting is being held via Google Meet in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. So we can go ahead and begin. We have a full panel of our school committee here, either in person or via Google Meet. And we did not have any citizens that said ahead of time that they would like to have any citizens' comments, but is there anyone here this evening that would like to comment?
I have a question.
Sure.
I received an invitation to this meeting. Was that an invitation to participate or to observe?
I would welcome, sorry.
It's a meeting in public. I mean, it's a meeting in public.
It's a school committee meeting that is in public. So you are certainly welcome to participate.
Observe, but if there's citizens' comments, you'd have an opportunity to
At any
talk.
time during the meeting?
No, the opportunity is now.
I haven't heard what you have to say, so I don't know if I have any questions.
Okay,
That's my comment.
okay.
I think that for everything that's
The
going
microphone.
on, I believe for everything that's going on, if people that are here have questions or comments and they can keep it short, they should be allowed to ask a question or to speak, because we want the input from all stakeholders, and now's the time to start that.
I don't, and pardon my lack of experience here, but I will really defer to other members who have more experience with the committee. As far as I know, all of the stakeholders are always invited with the full committee meeting to fully participate. So, for instance, for our August 12th meeting, I'm not sure about historically if for special meetings, other stakeholders have been allowed to participate at the table along with us.
Yeah. I know that some school committees have it that because it's important to continue the business of the school committee. I know some people or some committees, what they do is they have the public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and then they conduct their business during the meeting, and then they'll have it again for citizens' concerns, so that if anything came up at the meeting, there was another opportunity to provide input. It could be quite a long meeting if it turns into a kind of a public forum where 5, 6, 7 people want to continue to participate in the dialogue. That's why it's been put out there always that it's a meeting in public, not a public meeting. But I agree with Jeannie in terms of having perhaps another opportunity at the end to express whatever concerns or things. We might be able to consider doing that as a practice in the future.
Thanks, Alan. Mike?
Yeah, just to follow up on notification of the select boards and finance committee. That was to make sure that they knew that there was a meeting happening, because in the past sometimes they weren't notified. So that was our goal, was to make sure that the town boards were notified that there was a special meeting if they didn't happen to know about it. So we're just trying to make sure everybody knows that there's a meeting going on and that they're welcome to come. Citizens' comments. It is a good idea maybe at the end when we're done to have you speak, typically in a a subcommittee meeting, especially budget, we do allow participation because there's a lot of numbers going on. During the school committee meeting, we're kind of crunched for time, so I think probably holding citizen comments first and then at the end would be beneficial instead of interrupting business throughout.
So this really would be the, oh,
I just
Bob?
have a quick comment. I'm wondering John's supposedly gonna be gone a week from today. And that all the maintenance to the building's been done. Like, I don't know if Bernardston Elementary's had its septic system pumped, if the vents have been shut. Who's gonna be in charge to issue, like, whatever, so that these things get done?
Absolutely. So that is the purpose of our meeting today, to go over all of these agenda items and to put something in place, because we know that the district cannot run on its own. So, Mike?
Yeah. Just to follow up on that, I spoke with Julie, I believe yesterday, looking to possibly have a meeting with the principals from the 3 schools to see what needs to be done. Maybe they can talk with their custodians, make sure that the stuff that needs to get done is getting done, especially the septic. If they need supplies, if they need to have help come from one building to the other, and who's going to facilitate that. But we have talked about that, and we'll talk about it more tonight, and then hopefully have a meeting in the near future with the principals.
And I see no, I personally have no objection to there being another opportunity after we've finished our business for people to have questions or comments about what we have discussed. I need to leave that to the whole committee to decide. So I can pose it in a, asking if there's any objections to that. If, when we're done with our discussion.
I'll move to that we do that.
I would only say that we limit it somewhat.
Typically, there's 3 minutes for comments per person, with like a 20-minute limit.
I'll second Mike's motion.
Anyone opposed?
Robin has her hand
Oh,
raised.
sorry. Thank you for letting me know. This Google Meet. Go ahead, Robin. Oh, hold on. We don't have an audio for you yet. Now, try now, Robin. Can you do a test, Robin?
Oh.
Otis's fingers are going furiously over there, so just a moment. Okay. And Robin, you can pose your question in the chat function right now, and welcome to Adam. Adam is with Dupre, our legal team. Russell's on vacation, so Adam generously agreed to come and be here in case we have any questions for him. Thank you, Adam. So Robin said, please add limits to motion. Yes, so public comments are typically 3 minutes per person, and typically we like to set a limit of maybe 20 minutes. How does everyone feel about that? Any objections?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Sorry, go ahead, Jeannie.
I think given that we have, four items, I would appreciate the public's input at any time, not just at the beginning, because this is,
We voted to have it at the ending as well, after the agenda.
but my confusion is that at the end, if somebody goes back to something we were discussing about the search process, if we wait to the end, I may not remember what was said when we were doing the search process portion of the agenda.
So are you objecting to, okay, but we had a majority vote in favor of
Oh.
the beginning and the end.
All right.
Sorry if you may have missed
No,
that.
we didn't vote.
We didn't vote
We
yet.
didn't vote.
Yeah,
We have a
can I
motion and a
offer
second.
just
It was,
I'm sorry, I said, are there any objections?
Oh.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
yes, you did. I corrected.
But I didn't recall a vote on it.
So when we're in person, we don't need to have a roll call vote?
No, I know we don't.
Oh, okay.
But you would still have a show of
Hands.
yes and no. You don't say any objections.
Okay,
Well,
that's,
we don't. I mean, it is a possible way to do business.
Okay.
okay.
Well, I
Last
guess
meeting,
I'm-
that's how we did it.
I guess, to go back, I'm
Okay.
voicing my objection.
Do we want to entertain a motion to re-vote on this matter?
So are you suggesting a more collaborative style of discussion this evening? Because it is a serious discussion, and like you said, we should have the input with some time.
And exactly,
On it.
they can't go on and on and on, but limit again to 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, if we're not
So
establishing.
David was next,
Oh.
1 second. So David,
So this motion just has to do with our procedure tonight?
Right.
Is that
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, because I would object to, I'm in my 7th year, and I've seen 4-hour school committee meetings, half of which were dominated by the public, and I don't think it's helpful. The public feels they've got access to me to express opinions at all times and places. And so I think that at the school committee meetings in general, we need to just do our jobs. And it's not a time to always to gather more data. We've got homework to do, and people contact us prior to meetings. But
Thanks,
for
David.
Tonight,
So-
yes, please.
Alan was next, and then Nathan, and then, was there someone in the audience? No, okay.
All right, my point was basically David's point of, as long as we're clear, we're doing that for just this evening, given the nature of, the emergency nature under which we are having conversations. It is not a good practice to be doing that, and people always have access to you to be able to email, or the vice chair, or their town, their representatives for the town if they have concerns, and we would then pass them along. So we do have a mechanism in place for that to happen. So I'm certainly amenable to have the public participate in raising issues for tonight only,
During the meeting or at the end?
during the meeting.
Okay. Nathan?
I would just like to suggest that each agenda item can have a response of 3 people. Like we would normally do, every other, item. And that would streamline the meeting.
So, would we, they are all good suggestions. So would anyone like to make a motion?
I don't think we need to motion, we can just do it.
Well,
So that we're
I
not
just did the
institutionalizing
other
it.
thing,
Yeah.
and that got objected to, so I'm looking for some input here. I don't want I really want to move on.
Okay, I'll move that we allow the public to ask questions and limit it to 3 per agenda item
For this meeting.
for this meeting only.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right. All opposed? All right. Wonderful. Okay, thank you. So our first order of business here is to discuss the superintendent's resignation. So that is a big, big, broad topic. As everyone here is aware, we did receive the superintendent's resignation recently. Excuse me, Jim Bell has a raised hand. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I just wanted to say that before we proceed.
Oh, hold on one moment. Okay, so I just received word that our audio for the Google Meet participants, you can hear me, we're not able to hear your questions. You are able to pose them in the chat function. Or I would be willing to certainly open up my cell phone for participants to call in order to have their voice be heard. Yeah, Jim? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the superintendent's resignation.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Thank you. Now, it seems
Thank-
appropriate to talk
okay.
about how to fill it.
Okay. All I did receive legal advice that it's not required to have a vote to accept the resignation, but I understand the procedure. So Jim, I'm going to put my cell phone number in the chat function here, and you may call in or feel free to type in the chat function. Sorry, we are waiting on Tyler from BNC TV to arrive in order to help get the audio going for the Google Meet participants.
David has his hand up.
Okay. David?
I don't know who's going to do it, but we have a policy that we do exit interviews. So let's get that done with the business director and the superintendent and see what we can learn.
Been asked that.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Do we need a motion to do that?
It's our policy, unless someone disputes it.
Who are those typically conducted by?
Superintendent?
That's,
Yeah,
it's a
So,
little unusual. I just think that,
yeah.
to be clear, that I know it's policy, but we're doing a little differently.
So in the case of a superintendent resignation, I would assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that means that I would, as the chair or an appointed member of our school committee, would conduct that interview with the superintendent? Jeannie?
I was thinking it would be the school committee, and I would but my recommendation would be to have 2 or 3 people involved with the exit interview. That way, you're avoiding the he said, she said scenario.
But then is it a public document?
If you're doing it as a subcommittee, it would be, I believe. In other
Okay.
words, if you appoint someone to act on the committee's behalf and they're reporting back, then I believe that would be public information.
So maybe we can get, of course, Adam can't speak to us. We do have our legal counsel here. I know.
He could put you a chance.
So Alan is raising his, Adam is raising his hand, but I can't hear you, Adam.
Can you, chat in?
Can you put it in chat?
Yeah, Adam, you could either type it in the chat, and I can certainly read it, or you can call my cell.
He can call mine too if you want.
Julie, in the meantime, I'd like to refer back to people's memories of when we instituted this policy, that council recommended that we not institute this policy because of some legal questions about how the information would be used or disseminated. So we have to be very careful here.
And that is what you're referencing with if
With the
it's an
public,
open,
yeah.
okay, okay.
So we won't be doing exit.
I would agree.
So it looks like maybe
it's
Adam's
Adam's.
calling me.
I think the chair could.
Is
Just
that
one
not
mo-
at all, or not in the
One
case of the
moment here, so
superintendent?
is this Adam?
Yes.
Hi, Adam.
Hello. So it's a little awkward to do it this way, but so I think part of the concern that I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm not sure this is going to work very well.
Oh,
Might be your computer.
no, I have this on mute.
Oh.
It's
Can
his,
you mute your session? and
Microphone?
Take the microphone.
Microphone.
Shut the microphone off.
No,
Or have him mute his meet.
Can you mute your me, Adam?
Let me see if that helps.
Yeah, see if that helps, because then he'll be talking through his phone.
It's rhetorical.
Okay, how's that? That's a little bit better.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah, no, we usually advise a lot of times against exit interviews because a lot of times the person leaving the district makes a lot of accusations and other things that sort of spur on multiple investigations. And a lot of times that information that is gleaned is not necessarily helpful. It also requires a willing participant to do that. A lot of employees aren't willing to take that step and do the exit interviews. But, that's a couple of reasons we usually advise against it. But I think that's probably why probably the conversation Russell had with somebody at some point.
How about if you conduct
okay.
it? How about if you conduct it?
A committee member's asking if I personally conducted it.
A chair would usually talk to a superintendent if they want to glean any information about the reason for the exit. That would be the natural choice to do that. If you did create a written record, though, that could potentially be a public record.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how would that information ever get shared with the rest of the committee?
Right.
Correct. So Adam, another committee member's asking, then if I met with the chair personally and gleaned that information during the exit interview, how would I share it with the committee?
Well, you could potentially have a discussion about it in a future meeting, the concerns that were raised in the exit interview.
Okay.
I move we do not conduct an exit interview with the superintendent.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
Sometimes there's valuable information, but like you said, Russell probably advised, I advise most of my clients not to do them because you go down a rabbit hole of a lot of different things that get opened up, and, sometimes it puts you in an awkward position in a lot of ways.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Do you mind staying on the line just on mute in case we need you again?
Okay, well, I'm going to be listening on the main one, but I'll keep the phone open. Don't you need it open for other people to contact you as well, though?
I can make sure that through the chat. Oh, it looks like Jim may want to call in. So, yeah, so we'll hang up. Hopefully
Well,
this
you
will.
have my phone over here. Just give me a call.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Adam. Bye-bye.
I second David's motion.
His second motion?
Can we
The
clarify that?
second motion that he
Yeah.
made not to conduct? Is that right?
Not to conduct a
Okay.
superintendent's.
Correct.
All right.
That's what I'm seconding.
All right.
What if we do this?
I don't think the first one had a second, did it?
No.
No.
Any further discussion about that? Nathan?
So, we are losing a resource in our superintendent. He has been intimately involved, knows what's going on. He is one of the best people to inform our decisions going forward. How does it benefit the education of the children in this district not to have some kind of, it doesn't have to be an exit interview, but we should at least.
Can I
Karen?
speak to that?
Sure.
I spoke with John yesterday, and he told me that he is willing to work with whoever is going to be doing his job here, whether it's an interim or somebody else, up through September, and up to, but hopefully not, 10 hours a week. And he would come in to sign paperwork, and he would come in to assist whoever takes over to, learn the ropes and so forth. So I hope that helps address your concern there.
As long as his current contract allows him to do that.
And
Yeah.
did he ask that you relay that information to us?
I told him I planned to, and he said that's fine.
So we need to confirm that his current contract
I was
allows
just
him
gonna-
to do that, but most often they don't.
Right.
Yeah, and I recently reviewed the contract. I do not see anything
Right.
with that language in the contract, so that would be something that we would have to run by our legal team. 1 second, because I know Alan has his hand raised, and Jim Bell has been wanting to ask a question. Jim, would you like me to call you on your cell phone? Okay. Goodness, this is certainly 2021 for you.
Technology. It's
Yeah.
And what is Jim's number?
Oh,
Well, I don't know.
Do you want someone else to help you with that so that?
I could put
um,
Adam on my phone for speed dial to.
Yeah, Adam should probably be on a phone to answer questions.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have my phone.
Oh, Tyler's here.
Good.
Jim, we're getting to you. And Tyler's here to hopefully get the audio up and running.
Do you want to put in Adam's number?
Oh, can someone please, Jim, can you try speaking on the Meet, on the Google Meet? To test it?
Hello?
Looks like he's trying.
Hello?
I have his phone number if you want it.
Ask Robin.
We're hoping that Tyler will be able to. Keep going, Jim. Just recite the alphabet or something. Keep talking.
Yeah, I still can't hear you, Robin, but I can hear
Oh,
Jim.
Raina's trying.
You can hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, keep going. We're getting closer.
Getting closer to me?
Yep, it's very soft.
That's very soft, yeah.
Yeah, we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Show up to the meeting. That's how I'm
Well,
dealing with it.
I hear you, Mike, but there's times that subcommittees need
Oh.
a quorum during the winter, and this is a good option for that. So we should have the
Cancel the
technology.
meeting in the wintertime.
Let's just hold our discussion here while we're.
One more time, somebody from the meet, but talk for a while, not just a couple of words.
Raina, recite the alphabet.
A, B, C, D. Can you hear me?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Jim, do you want to try saying what you had to say, or
Can you hear me?
can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can hear me.
Hallelujah.
All right.
Where's the flag? We gotta stand up and do the thing?
So basically, before we proceed in looking for and finding a new superintendent, I think this school committee needs to take a good, long look in the mirror. And for those of us who are capable of self-reflection, the question is, we lost a good man. How did that happen? Is there anything that we did? Is there anything that we need to improve going forward in terms of supervising a superintendent? Because believe me, I've been at these meetings. And if I worked for this school committee, my resumes would be flying out. Some of the tone, I remember commenting on, well, maybe 3 or 4 meetings ago, the tone toward John that was so disrespectful. So anyway, that's what I want to say going forward. We need to look at ourselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I do see that Glenn Kuchar arrived. He is with the MASC. Hi, Glenn. Oh, looks like you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I had invited Glenn to be part of our meeting to discuss the process in general regarding, the resignation of our superintendent and how to begin this process. So he has graciously agreed to kind of give us an overview of that process and to.
There's something wrong with your audio.
There's an echo.
There's an echo.
They're working on it.
You know, it looks like I'm on here twice, and I don't know why.
Now Lois is twice.
I did try to come in using your Google Meet thing on my computer, and it wouldn't work, so I had to use my cell phone. I wonder if I should make sure everything else on my computer is disconnected.
No, Glenn, it's just when whoever's speaking appears on the school committee's window. Yeah.
Okay.
So, unless I have an objection from the school committee, I would like to give Glenn the opportunity to walk through this process with us. Okay. So Glenn, if you could please give us a few moments here of your time to walk
Sure.
us through this process.
First, let me say that the school committee,
boy.
is that working? Is the sound working well for you, or we okay?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
The school committee is in charge of this process, and the school committee has broad discretion. If you wanted to right now, you could appoint me as your superintendent. You have that much authority. The only requirement is that you hire a superintendent in public with a majority vote of the school committee. Most school committees will want to have some type of a process to cast a net, to look for candidates, to involve people who work with the school district, members of the community, possibly in a search process. But starting this late in the year, getting ready for next year, most districts in your position will be looking for an interim superintendent who may be able to cover you for a year and keep things stable so that you can either mount a superintendent search, or if you hire a 1 or a 2 year interim, which is becoming more common, you might just elect to go with your interim superintendent, whatever that might be. I haven't asked whether or not there's anybody inside the district who aspires to the superintendency. Usually that's the first place that a district looks, because frequently an interim, a successor candidate would be mentored to take over the leadership position. There are people out there who are interested in being interim superintendents for 1 or 2 years. The Department of Education is being very reasonable and making it possible for you to get waivers for retired superintendents. But there are a lot of other people who are not retired who might still be willing, and I think strongly would be willing, to work in your district. I actually had 2 contacts this week from aspiring superintendents for your district. Both of them very credible candidates, and I'll be happy to pass that information along to whoever it is that's collecting that information. The some things that complicate the process. As I said, it's late in the year, and summertime. A lot of people aren't paying attention, and you've got to get organized. You've got to get school started, and you've got to go through what will be, I hope, not as challenging a year as the year before, but still somewhat challenging with everything that you'll have on your plate. You'll have to be getting the schools open. You'll have to deal with questions of masks and the options that are available to you. You may have issues mobilizing your faculty. There may be financial issues and others that will require your attention. So this year's not going to be a breeze, but I think it's formidable, but certainly very surmountable for a district like yours. If you are interested in letting the universe of interim candidates know about your vacancy, we, of course, will post your vacancy for you. We will distribute information and notice of vacancy for whatever that position is, and we would make our recruiting list and database available to you as you were looking to find from the pool of candidates who might be interested. If you elected to mount a formal search and a formal search process, that's another discussion, and we can help you with that if you like. But we don't charge districts to help them with interim superintendent searches, and we don't charge districts if they're handling the search themselves. But we do provide extensive technical assistance as just part of your affiliation with MASC. That includes, as I said, helping you provide the graphic information that you need to announce and promote your vacancy, posting it on our website. The superintendents will also post it on their website. Between the two of us, it's 1 million hits a year, so people will know about it. And anybody looking to come to Massachusetts, and there are a lot of friends of the Connecticut Valley who remember it well from their college days or other days and think very fondly of it, would like to come back, we can help you find them. We can assist you in collecting your applications if you'd like, and sharing them with you, screening them for you, and give you some guidance in developing questions and the vetting process for superintendents. But as I said, it's very late in the year, and I think you want to start looking for an interim superintendent, and you want to consider seriously a 2-year interim process, simply because you're likely to get a better pool of candidates in that regard. I can answer any specific questions you might have now or later.
interim superintendents willing to like do a 1 year with a extension if it's working out? Is that as an option?
Can't hear you yet, Glenn.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, if they're already retired, there may be a problem with how much they're allowed to earn without a waiver. But for those people who are delaying retirement or who haven't retired, I think if they're available, they would be willing to come for a year and look for an extension of 1 year at a time, if that's what you wanted.
Yeah.
Yep, Alan?
Glenn, are we talking a superintendent or?
That would be up to you. But it seems to me that a district of your size would merit a full-time superintendent. There are very, very small districts that will work with a part-time superintendent. Single people up at places like Hatfield, very small district. Sometime maybe Worthington, Sandusfield, Otis. The very, very small districts would have a part-time superintendent, but and there are people who embrace those opportunities.
Thank you, Glenn. Michelle?
Hi, Glenn. Aspiring to be superintendent,
Who have
wouldn't
expressed-
we be better off having a seasoned superintendent in this district, considering what we have been going through?
Well, one of them is a
Oh,
former
Glenn,
super.
hold on a moment. Okay, try.
One of them is a former superintendent. Another is a former assistant superintendent. So that's correct. That's correct. You might also find that there are people out there who have not yet been a sitting superintendent who might also be totally appropriate for your district, and you might, want to screen them in. But you need to move expeditiously if you're going to have things ready for the start of school.
Put the word out and do some recruiting and so forth to see what options might be available. What are you looking as a turnaround time that we might be entering a conversation with someone?
I would suggest, for example, as a draft turnaround time, that we get the post up before the end of the week. You leave it open for a couple of weeks because you do have a short turnaround time. Once the candidates come in, that you expedite interviews with these candidates because of the short time frame and the interim nature of the positions. You might just skip the search committee process and have the school committee interview the candidates and then make decisions, or you might have a preliminary, brief interview with the candidates. You just don't have time for all the process that goes into a full intergalactic search, as we say. That can take 3 or 4 months, depending upon how many people are involved. For something like this that needs to move quickly, get it up there by the end of the week, close a couple of weeks from now, and then immediately take your candidates and begin to screen them and interview them and try to find somebody with whom you can come to terms.
Thanks, Glenn. So to summarize that, your recommendation would be that by the end of this week, to have a posting up for an interim superintendent position for at least a term of 1 year, and with the possibility of an extension. And that perhaps we could forego a traditional search committee for the interim and have this entire school committee conduct those interviews in the interest of time and the fact that the school year's beginning incredibly soon.
That is correct, and the reason I recommend that the school committee do it is a search committee can convene an executive session. The school committee may not convene an executive session. So if you agree to interview the candidates in public, then the school committee can be its own search committee and work in public so that the public can observe. Candidates who want to be interim superintendents are usually not intimidated by the opportunity to have a public interview. If this were a full search going on in the middle of the year and you had sitting superintendents applying to come to your district, they might want some confidentiality in the initial stages of the process.
Does it become problematic if the school committee decides to do the search, and so therefore there's not a preliminary screening, they're bringing a couple of candidates forward? If the school committee decides that they want to invite a couple of perhaps some select boards or finance committee members to, and that's where I'm trying to walk soft and try to figure out, can they participate in the, conversation or questioning? Does it become like it's starting to look like a search committee? I'd like your thoughts on that, because it'd be nice if we could invite them, because this is a pretty important position.
That's totally up to you. The school committee can invite whomever it wishes to assist in the search process in any part of the process. But the school committee must meet in public. So if the school committee has invited, and again, I'm making this up, but let's say you invite a couple of select persons, maybe a town manager, maybe a police chief, whatever it might be, you add 4 or 5 people to the interview process, you can certainly do that. But you can't go into executive session to do it. If you bear with me a second here, whoops, we all there?
Yep, we're here.
I like that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
That was my
Thank you.
alarm telling me that I had a conference call at 7:30, and
Oh, okay.
I freed up a little bit earlier than I thought.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Glenn. We had expected that Glenn would come around 7:30 or 8, so
Yeah,
he's
but
able to
the
squeeze us in, so I
decision
appreciate it.
the decision about who you invite to collaborate with you is a school committee decision.
So who we choose, to paraphrase us, is a school committee decision.
Correct.
I think he said yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, anything else for Glenn? I know he has a meeting in 10 minutes. Yep, Nathan?
Yeah, how does state overseership either help or hinder this process?
The sort of quasi-receivership situation that you're
Can't
in,
hear you. Can't hear Glenn.
Go ahead.
the situation that you're in provides actually an asset to you, and that the state is invested in your success. And, we've been working very closely with the commissioner on districts. I have to say, if I had ever thought I would be speaking well of a commissioner of education in Massachusetts, I would never have believed myself. But this is the first commissioner who I've honestly felt was truly committed to collaboration. So I think the commissioner will make sure that your district succeeds and gets out of the sort of oversight situation that you found yourselves in. We were very eager to assist the district when your problems first began. And I give you a lot of credit for working your way out of that situation. And I can see your interim superintendent and your next superintendent just taking you out of it completely and getting back to some level of normalcy.
Same question, though. I'm glad that you have a collaborative relationship. The overseer, would he not have to approve of whoever we selected because there will be a contract in place above
Who is the overseer?
25,000, above a certain
is the-
figure.
Who is the overseer? Who is the overseer?
Did you hear that?
Rick Kingsley's here? Is he?
No.
No, he asked who's your overseer.
Oh, Rick Kingsley's the overseer.
Rick King, okay. Rick is a very decent person and has been very committed to doing good work with the department. And I think the commissioner might ask that he have the ability to look over the shoulder. But my experience has been that whomever the school committee has elected as its superintendent, the department has not stood in the way.
Thank you, Glenn. Does anyone else have questions for Glenn? Glenn, we thank you very, very much.
Okay, if you elect to post a position, please call me directly and let me know, and we can put something up for you quickly. If you want to disseminate the information, let me know, and we will get some stuff up as quickly as we can, including, before the weekend starts.
Alan has one more question.
Glenn, do we have to, in that posting, do we need to put down a salary range?
You don't have to put down anything other than those things which you believe define the position for you. There are candidates who will ask about the salary range, and we usually the healthiest way to respond to that is by offering a fair salary and compensation benefits to be negotiated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
I would also
All right,
tell you that you probably want to look for someone with a graduate degree. I would not insist on anybody with an EDD or a doctorate of any kind. Graduate
you.
degree would be important.
All right, you better sign off while you have the chance.
Okay.
We thank you very much.
You know where to find me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was great. Tyler?
Can I try something real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm hoping it's going to fix that echo.
Sure, we're just gonna work on one quick thing here with our technical team to try to alleviate the echo.
It may disconnect the Facebook stream, but I can start it back up again.
Okay.
Can you ask somebody on the
Raina's our go-to to sing a song or something. Go ahead, Raina.
I didn't warm up for a song.
Sounds good, though. We don't hear any echo.
Good.
Oh, there is?
Oh, yeah.
I can't hear it up here.
Oh. Echo.
It's happening in the room.
Go ahead again.
Go ahead, Raina.
Oh, you want me to keep talking?
Wow,
Ooh, I could hear that that time.
that was fancy.
Bass.
Is there still an echo? Or is that getting better?
Keep trying.
Keep trying. You want me to say my ABCs or 1, 2, 3 testing, right?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay.
No.
Is that sounding better?
Okay. All right, so we were still discussing the superintendent's resignation. Alan, you had made a motion, it was seconded and approved to accept the resignation. And I believe that's when Glenn, no, had we, okay.
I don't remember. So we didn't vote on that yet?
We did. We
Yeah,
Oh, we did vote
voted,
on
we
it.
voted to accept the resignation,
Yeah,
yes.
we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So now I wanted to give,
oh,
as per our motion at the beginning, to allow any members of our community here in attendance to ask questions, if there are any at this point. Okay. Okay, so Jane and then Kathy.
I believe we have a motion on the floor to not do an exit, which you have not acted.
Right.
I'm sorry if I moved on. I thought that we had accepted to not do an exit interview. Is that everyone's understanding, or?
I had asked a question and it hadn't, I don't think it had been answered, like how it benefits the students in the district to not get, and that was started to be addressed, that Jonathan would possibly do that, and then I asked, would his new contract allow him to do that?
And
That was separate from an exit interview question. The question that you're referring to was if Jonathan wanted to stay on and mentor perhaps an interim.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear.
That's okay.
My objection was to not having an exit interview. It was at that point that I said we should at least get his input. So it was still part of that discussion at that time.
So I really want to be clear so we don't keep repeating the same business. I think that we all here we're at 7:30, we're an hour in, we're still on the first agenda item. This is the second time we've gone over a motion. So if I could appoint someone to take notes, is there someone that would be willing to
I'll take them.
be a scribe just for the motions that we complete? So that way there's no question moving forward. So just to recap, we have voted that the members of the public would be able to do citizens' comments 3 minutes apiece, 20 minutes total after every agenda item, and that passed. And now we will re-vote on the exit interview motion. Who made, and I believe it was David, made the motion to not do an exit interview for the superintendent. Is that correct?
Yes, and Alan
And then Alan seconded, and then we voted. So for the sake of just having this be noted,
I don't think we voted.
Yeah, we did.
we did. But what, I mean, and this is being recorded, so we can certainly go back, but in the interest of not knowing, or there being any discussion, let's vote. So Alan, David, are you willing to entertain the same motion that you made previously?
I don't dance, but otherwise.
What?
I don't dance. Entertain it?
Yep, sorry.
Is that to make it again?
I'm trying to be Madam Chair, I don't even.
Sorry. Not helping. I'm renewing my motion that we not have exit interviews for the superintendent.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jeannie. All in
Wait a
favor?
minute, discussion.
Oh, sorry, discussion.
I have a,
Okay.
so what I heard was the chair could have the interviews, and from those interviews, you could bring forward what we've learned and what we need to do or not do to help the district from a general perspective to give feedback, if that actually has merit and would help the district. Maybe I didn't hear it right, but I thought you could do that and then share it in it'd be in an open meeting to give us some information as to how we could do better.
I do remember, so Adam, our legal counsel, had stated that typically they do not recommend exit interviews he gave several reasons. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody remembered that part of the conversation. Is there any more discussion? Just looking at the feed here. So all in favor of the motion to not have an exit interview for the superintendent? And I'm 6, Robin is 7. All opposed? Nathan and Jim.
What about
So that motion passes.
And I'm abstaining.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jane. Oh, Raina has her hand up? Does she?
David, too.
Sorry, I had said that Kathy could speak next.
I guess I would just like to urge the committee at this point in time, in light of the fact that there are two individuals out there who have expressed an interest, which is awesome. I would urge the committee to post the position tomorrow, and I would suggest that it close. You're having a school committee meeting next Thursday, so give it a week. Wednesday to Wednesday, maybe 12 o'clock next Wednesday, whatever time you choose, and then it will certainly create a marathon meeting, but get that paperwork from those two individuals and whoever else might see the posting and review it next Thursday afternoon. Maybe you guys need to bring dinner. And decide who you might like to interview the next week. I think that's the week of the 16th. If you didn't have two people that had already expressed interest, you might really need to give yourself more time, but you've got three building principals who are looking for direction, as well as a special educator, director, and so on. And if by chance those people are available and they have credentials.
Thank you, Kathy. I do see, I know David had his hand raised, but I believe that Anne is trying to speak with us. Anne.
Thank
Can hear
you.
us? Anne Harding?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm hoping you can hear me. I apologize. I was late arriving to the meeting because I thought it started at 7. That's the usual time, so I had a doctor's appointment. But on the last motion, people weren't saying their names and saying yes or no because you're a combination of in person and online, but the camera's not showing who's in favor.
Oh, the camera wasn't showing you. Okay.
So I can't tell who was opposed or not, or in favor of the previous motion. I mean, I can see that it carried, but just so you know, if someone could send me the count, and in future, if people could just kind of pretend you're online and say your name and whether
Okay.
you're yay, okay?
Yep. While we're still having Google Meets meeting, it is in our best interest just to state our names when we're voting.
roll call.
Okay. Perfect.
Especially because Ann can't see us.
That's, yeah, exactly. Okay, thanks, Anne. Okay, David.
I would like to encourage members to do your own exit interview and draw your own conclusions. My experience is John's willing to talk and advise, and he has, to me, indicated a willingness to help us with the transition. When I talked to him a couple days ago, it was more like maybe he could spare an hour a day for some weeks helping in the transition. But there's, we recognize there's a problem trying to create a document and all that could ensue, but he's not unavailable.
I second that, because basically that's what I did with him yesterday.
So right, there wasn't a motion, but you're just
Right.
Agreeing.
agreeing.
That's right.
Okay, thanks you.
Another
Thanks.
use of the word.
Nathan.
So this goes, again, back to not John's willingness to do it, but does his current contract allow him to do that?
I have a question, I have a comment.
Alan, and then David.
So my response to that would be, we've accepted his resignation. So whatever the terms of that, in terms of our obligation to fulfill, we will do that. If he has an interest, and I think that's wonderful that he's offered to do that, we would have to just establish a per diem rate that would be independent of the contract to allow for us and for him to work together collaboratively in this transition period.
I see that Lois has her hand raised as well. I will get to you, Lois, but David had his hand raised.
Okay,
When I raised it, it wasn't to agree with Kathy, but I do, so I want to note that. No, you know what, that's it.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
Lois has her hand raised, as does Raina, and then I'm going to ask the question of Adam as far to clear up the contractual concern, just to see what that would look like. So go ahead, Lois.
okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my question is just in connection with what you're just talking about with John's assistant. Earlier, I'm not sure if it was you or someone said that he would be willing to sign documents. I think it's a legal question whether after the date of his resignation, whether he could legally sign any documents. Thank you.
Thanks, Lois. So if anyone couldn't hear Lois, she was saying, would he be able to legally sign documents after we have accepted his resignation? So I believe I know the answer to that, but we'll let Adam weigh in just one moment here. Raina, you are next.
So I have a couple of concerns in terms of, paying someone after they've resigned to do something that to help with that transition. After giving 2 weeks notice, we really don't have time to create a transition before John starts his new job, and whether that also has if there are any legal concerns with him mentoring someone after he's left his position, and also wondering if we're going to be discussing at some point the ramifications of the fact that 2 weeks notice violated the terms of John's contract.
And
Thank you, Raina. So I have, so Adam, if you could just clarify for us, and then Mike has a question, and Michelle. So Adam, we were curious here, so with the terms of the superintendent contract, I just want to make clear here that we are hearing this through other school committee members that have had contact with John's schedule. We have not heard this from himself. But there are questions regarding if he would be able to give an hour per day to provide mentorship and/or sign documents and whatnot. So.
Yeah, in terms of signing off of the district, I don't see him having any authority to do that once the resignation is finalized. If he wanted to volunteer his time and the committee wanted that to happen, he certainly could do that. But generally, an expectation would be some sort of per diem rate to assist the district if that's the direction you were going. I don't know the exact conversations that were had, but that's typically what would be expected if they were going to help shepherd in a new superintendent or interim.
And that would be independent of the current contract, which was ended with his resignation? Or as of his last day of employment?
Right after his last day of employment under the resignation, he would have no commitment to the district, and the district would have no commitment to him at that point.
Okay. So Mike.
I guess the question John needs to ask himself is, he should have looked at the 90 days that was in the contract and gave us the courtesy of at least 30 days instead of 2 weeks. The community is disappointed with a superintendent that only gave a 2-week notice when in the industry, 90 days is the norm. And I've talked to other retired superintendents, and they couldn't believe that that's what happened. So his last day is Monday. If he wants to come back and give us a hand, volunteer, when we get somebody on that's probably more than capable of figuring it out. The community is disappointed, and most of the people said, what? 90 days is the norm, and we got 2 weeks. So maybe he's had a change of heart, but I think he should have thought about his 2-week notice long before he gave his resignation.
Thanks, Mike. Michelle.
Actually, Adam, did answer my question, because I had a couple of questions on the contract, the 90-day that was in his contract. What about sick time, vacation time, or anything that is owed to him? What would be the payout? But he's essentially said his last day is it. So I felt comfortable with that.
Right. And
Alan?
you understand, though, that he's entitled to and will get the vacation, the coming forward with sick time, the annuity, all of those things. I have his contract. I reviewed it. There's no penalty that you would normally put in a contract that would have the committee take a look at those issues. My understanding, and Adam can, certainly weigh in on this, would be that those are obligations that we would have to fulfill.
Okay, so when does the vacation start? After July 1st? He would get...
Since he didn't accrue them, he would get, if he had 25, he would get the 25 days. If he had time to bring over, he could bring over any time that he was not able to, that he did not use. But certainly Adam should probably weigh in on that.
Yeah, I would like to understand what the payout package would be.
Well, vacation time, Attorney General's offices consider that an accrued benefit that has to be paid off upon exit of the district. So if he had any accrued vacation days, certainly that would be a benefit that would have to be paid out. Any other collection of personal days and whatnot, you'd have to have our office examine the contract. That wouldn't be a statutory. It would be, based on the terms of the contract. And even the vacation can be limited if there's specific language in there. So without having the contract in front of me, we can certainly break it down and tell you your exact, in our opinion, legal opinion, your obligations under the contract. But you would need to provide us with a contract to do that.
Thank you. So I guess we're still within the first item of business. So if that is completed,
I just have a question for your lawyer. Since your superintendent is the one who wrote the contract by not giving a 90-day notice, does that affect any of the other items like vacation days?
so there was a no penalty clause in the contract. So
Yeah, I would say generally the 90 days or 60 days, whatever you see, that is a professional courtesy. It's not something that you can really compel in a contract. It sort of falls under indentured servitude laws that, so you can still retire with 2 weeks, 1 week. There's really no way to enforce those types of provisions, but professional courtesy, that's why those are in there, that you get the lead time to make the arrangements you need to fulfill the needs of the position.
thank you. I just want to add my opinion on the matter. I have not spoken with John since his resignation. I would not be in favor of asking him to stay on board or accepting his offer to stay on board, given the fact that he did not give the professional courtesy of a 90-day notice. I would not want him to be paid during that period when he was professionally obligated to do that himself. So, I wanted to make sure that that was known. Karen?
If it were a volunteer without pay, I hope you would accept his offer, because some kind of transition would be beneficial.
I feel like his 90-day notice is that period of transition, personally.
Personally, I'm looking at the good of the district, and I'm not looking to punish anyone. I think if it is an offer without pay, without compensation, I think we should accept it.
You used the language punishment, I did not. I would not want that to be perceived as a punishment for not allowing him to stay on. He made it very clear that he wanted a 2-week notice, and he gave that to us in writing. Any professional, in my professional opinion, if I were willing to stay on to volunteer my own time to continue to help the district, I would have given the proper notice. I send a message if I believe you send a message if you say, I'm done in 2 weeks. That's my personal opinion.
And I understand that. I think you have to look at things that we can't discuss in public. And if you would like to have a discussion with him about what brought this on, very suddenly for him, he said to me that 10 days ago, he was committed to the district, would stay with the district, and then events occurred. So, and he is taking another job in education, so he couldn't, if he were going to do that, stay on 90 days. So I'm looking at what he might be able to, just nuts and bolts things to do with a new person. And I don't think we should reject that if it's a volunteer situation.
Is there further discussion regarding that? Oh, sorry, Robin. Oh, try again. Oh, not yet. You don't think it's on our end, Tyler? Robin, if you see my cell phone. Raina, can you try saying something?
Yeah, I'm not able to hear Robin either.
Okay, other members can't hear Robin either. Okay, she's going to call me.
I give you a lot of credit. There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
and you're managing
I know.
it, so
Thank
good for
you. Thank you. Oh, here she is. Okay, Robin.
Ooh.
Okay, if you could now mute Robin.
Muted. Is that better?
Not yet.
No.
I'm muted now.
Can you try holding that and see?
Sit on that, Mike.
I think of the microphone.
Turn off your mic, Mike.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah. I think it's the sound on
Okay.
your laptop. What if you shut that?
It's off.
It's off.
Is it my laptop? Anyway.
Yeah, I'm out of theory.
Turn your laptop mic off. Turn your laptop mic off.
My laptop mic on.
You actually got to mute the laptop.
All right, I think that's off. Is that off?
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, good. All right, well, I mean, I know where Karen's coming from, and I get that point in some ways, but I really agree with Julie. And I'm concerned that for somebody that 10 days ago said he was committed to the district, somehow got another job offer. Was he looking for other jobs? It doesn't even matter at this point. And I do feel that when somebody sends a notice clearly that says in 10 days, I'm done, quite honestly, if I had done that in my other job, I probably would be escorted off the property, which is what a lot of people do. So, I mean, I understand that people have to make decisions, and I get that, but he really did leave us in a bind, and I just, it sounds like we have some viable candidates, and I think anybody that was a superintendent before, if we do this interim thing, which it seems like a good suggestion, that people are going to come in and know what they're doing. So I don't think it's, anyway, that's it. I'm done. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Anyone else? Nathan.
Thank you, Julie. We need to do a better job with our next contract. I think that's obvious to everyone here. I believe there's some value in one person passing information on to another. John has ample benefits that he's already accruing, and he doesn't need to receive anything else from us. It could be minor. I agree with Karen that just the basic nuts and bolts things we shouldn't shut off. But we really need to do a better job with the contract. This contract is not beneficial for the education for our kids.
Stephanie?
My first question is, why is he not at the meeting tonight so we can ask these questions to him?
So he is on a previously scheduled day off that prior to his resignation.
Okay. And then I guess my next question would be, does he have a plan to do a handover? Have we heard anything? What is his intention for making sure there's a good transition?
So the only thing that's been communicated to me from him is his resignation, which was the same email that I received at the same time you all did. That is all I have received from him. It does seem, I don't know if the word's uncomfortable, but to hear this information from other people, I would rather hear from John himself as to what he was willing to do if he was indeed offering this. I have every reason to believe what other school committee members is saying is true. However, I believe that personally the time to think of the children was when you were giving your notice, if you wanted to make sure that the plan was appropriate. So, is there anyone else that would like to discuss this? There hasn't been a motion made.
I just want to make this comment for the purpose of balance. For whatever transpired, I want to just say that this was a very, very difficult year. And dealing with COVID, dealing with the mask, dealing with all the information from the health department, DESI, and there was a lot for even an experienced superintendent to deal with. And he did get us through a very, very difficult time. So I think that it's important to at least make sure there's a balance of he has made contributions to the district in what has been a really, really difficult time. What transpired recently, I'm just putting that aside right now because I think it's just important to, he's been here for a couple of years. We have been, as a district, having some real difficult issues, and he has worked to try to help us through those. We have sort of made it through the other side, and now we have a new challenge in front of us that we need to address and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and for the purposes of this meeting, we recently did the superintendent's evaluation, which was public. So, but the purposes of this meeting was to discuss his resignation. Right. So that's what we were doing this evening. David.
I'd like to make a motion. You might find it's out of order. It's all encompassing. I move we work with the Mass Association of School Committees in an informal search to find and hire a full-time interim superintendent of schools on a 1 or 2 year contract.
Just a point of order when you say informal. There's no charge from what I believe from what Glenn Kuchar said as far as
For
them
informal.
assisting, yeah.
Right, that's
yeah.
exactly. So,
Okay.
rather than if we're ready for discussion, we haven't got a second. You want me to repeat the motion?
Please.
It's complicated. I move we work with the Mass Association of School Committees on an informal search to find and hire a full-time interim superintendent of schools on a 1 or 2 year contract.
Is there a second?
I will
Jeannie?
definitely second that.
Discussion. Alan?
So I'm supporting the direction you're going in. I want to make sure that we're clear, that they were clear, that there were two pathways. There's one that they actually do the search, there's a fee, and then there's a pathway where they provide a lot of technical assistance, which is the posting, the getting information out. I'm going to use the same word he used because he was talking about, as a member, we provide technical assistance because you're trying to do a search for an interim, not for a full-time, superintendent. So, David, if you thought about using that language so that we're really clear in the motion that that's the support we're looking for, and then he enumerated it, the posting, the advertising, the getting some candidates and so forth, then it would be clear to me, it would be clearer on what our intentions are, and I certainly, along with Jeannie, would support that motion.
I'm amenable to adding language or changing it on an informal, no-cost, technical assistance.
I believe that the distinction was that the assistance with the interim position was free.
Right.
And that if we were going to go the route of the permanent position, they offer a service.
Correct.
Okay, so right now we're discussing the interim, which it wasn't advertised by Glenn as a pay option for the interim.
He said
Okay.
they could post
Yes,
that as members of MASC.
right.
That's one of our benefits.
David?
So my intent is that this be interim and that the Mass Association would not be billing us for their work on our behalf. They'd be providing technical assistance.
And you seconded.
Perfect.
Oh, no, Jeannie seconded. Yep.
And I'm supporting that.
Further discussion? Nathan?
I would like to add full or part-time to leave our options open.
David?
It's not the intention of my motion. My ears pricked up when he said Hatfield. I looked them up. There are 430 students. We're 630. But when I consider where we've been, I think it's too costly to be short in leadership. So we might get there. What I wanted to point out is that this is hiring, and it actually has, the first thing that governs is our own personnel policies and our own policies. There's very little to nothing in state law about this. We have a lot of discretion. We just have to be fair in our dealings, but it's not as if we were buying a pavilion.
You went there. Alan?
Yeah, and I believe I heard Glenn say that a district of our size, I thought he said, I would certainly recommend that you have a full-time.
Nathan?
So my thought is that we are under overseership. Do we actually need a full-time superintendent?
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, let him finish his thought.
It's a question I'm asking. And so we're hiring a director of finance as well, who was really the lead for most of the decisions that have been made since we got ourselves out of debt. So if we hire an effective full-time director of finance, do we then need a full-time superintendent while we are under overseership?
So lots of hands. First, though, Adam, our legal counsel, has his hand raised. So I want to give him the opportunity here.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I've worked for Hatfield for many years and did work on their most recent contract. They do have a full-time superintendent. So I think that was just a mistake from Glenn's.
Okay, so Hatfield does have a full-time superintendent. Okay.
Yeah, one day is remote, but it's still a full-time superintendent.
Okay. It's remote. Okay. Thank you, Adam. So I believe Mike, Karen. Oh, Raina. Raina was first.
Let Raina go.
No, I was just going to say that I heard what you heard in terms of an interim superintendent search was at no cost through MASC, but there were the two levels for a permanent position. So that's all.
Thanks, Raina. So those of you that couldn't hear her, she was confirming that she heard the same from Glenn, that the interim search would be at no cost in the full, if we wanted them to do a full search. There was an option to pay for that. Mike?
Just to clarify on the oversight's financial by nature, and they don't tell us or the superintendent, how to run the school, and if the school committee makes a decision, what they decide on is any contract over 25,000, it may be 10.
No,
but I think
she's
pretty sure
right.
it's 25,000.
She's right.
And Rick Kingsley he's done a pretty good job guiding us, been pretty darn honest. Julie and I spoke with him and Jay Sullivan yesterday. Very good conversations, but financial oversight is what their role is right now. They're not overseeing the whole district as far as how we operate.
I think Jeannie. No, sorry, Karen.
I was looking for an opportunity, if we were going to discuss the finance director, to add information, but it's not relevant to this right now.
Okay, I think that we could, excuse me, certainly discuss that in other business.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, we have a motion, we have a second, we had a discussion. Is there any further discussion? So, all in favor?
Are we going to do roll call?
Yes. So if you could state so all in favor, if you raise your hands.
We're going to do roll call anyway.
We didn't have to do roll call if it were a live meeting and we had a quorum. But you're right.
We're just going to go around the table.
So the minutes
Well,
will want to reflect who voted no, who
Yes.
abstained.
So that's.
And I
why we
can't
need to
see,
say our name
I
and our
can't
vote.
see or
Yes.
hear.
Yep.
It's a roll call.
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
David Young, yes.
Oh, you want me to?
Jeannie
Oh,
Milton,
okay.
Bernardston, yes.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, abstain.
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Jim Bell, yes.
Jim
Alan?
Bell, yes.
Yeah.
Alan Genovese, yes. Warwick.
Michelle,
Robin is saying yes.
okay. Michelle Geruso, Leiden, yes.
And Julie Burke Northfield, yes.
What about Raina?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Raina
Raina.
Delphi, Northfield, yes.
Yes. Raina's yes.
I would like to make a motion that the school committee conduct a search for the interim superintendent, and that the chair decide on who to invite to the interviews with candidates.
Second.
Discussion? So I guess I have sorry, I was ready.
So as I understand it, that means that we would not have a preliminary round in secret, and that'll be important to telegraph to potential candidates that their name is going to be out there.
They will know that.
That's the distinction here.
Yep.
And I just want to make clear what my role would be. So when I was hearing Glenn discuss the process, he did say instead of establishing a search committee for the interim superintendent, the school committee itself could conduct that. So I imagined receiving the candidates through the posting. And would I then be bringing them to the committee? Or would I be establishing a team to vet them first before they were?
No, as soon as
Okay.
you start that, then
Right.
it's a whole different process. So
Okay.
the answer, so there's two things. Obviously, everything would go to
MASC.
central, no, everything that would come in through Joanne
Through-
Wallace.
yes.
So Joanne
Yep.
Wallace would get all this information together on who the candidates were,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be passed on to the school committee. There's not, usually there's a vetting in terms of redacting personal information and so forth, but their resumes, since this isn't preliminary, all that information would be available, and they would understand this. I'm hoping that if this motion passes, we would have a little bit of a conversation to provide some direction to you of who we would suggest you, or through Joanne, that we invite to the meeting, whether it be some finance representation from finance committees from the different towns or Board of Selectmen. We can have that conversation, and then you can talk to Joanne Wallace
You're
about
saying who we
reach out.
invite to the meeting to interview?
Right, to
while the-
participate.
Yes,
In
okay,
the end,
perfect,
the
okay.
committee votes. It's only the committee that can
Right,
vote.
right.
But they certainly could be part of the process to ask questions or,
Yep,
you know,
okay, thank you
participate.
for that clarification. Is,
David? Yep.
So now we are on number 2, so, we have moved on to number 2, because we're discussing the search process. So in a moment, you can have an opportunity to speak. Okay, great. Okay, so discussion regarding the motion.
Alan explained it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Okay. So we can take a vote. We can go around the table, and then I will check in with our folks here on Google Meet.
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
David Young, yes.
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Alan Genovese Warwick, yes.
Michelle Jeruso Leiden, yes.
Unanimous.
No, not yet.
Not yet, we've got 3 more.
You spoke, don't curse us. Robin Knipe. She gave a big thumbs up.
What am I
Raina.
voting on?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
What am I voting for?
Can you repeat the motion?
You're voting to have the school committee conduct the search, do the interviews, and invite some representation from the towns to participate in the interviews.
For the interim superintendent.
For the interim superintendent, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sounds good to me.
Raina.
Yes.
Okay, and Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. Unanimous, Bob. Okay. Be nice, we have had unanimous. Okay, so we just discussed the interim superintendent search process, so now we can entertain any questions from the public. Yes?
I was just wondering if you were going to be asking any administrators, because as you've discussed, you talked about inviting members from the town and different other people, but you never said a single administrator. So I was hoping that that was maybe a thought that could be had.
Yes.
Yeah. We can certainly open it up to the committee for discussion. Just personally, I would absolutely
Yeah.
like the administrators to be part of the process. I see a lot of nodding
Yes.
heads.
Oh, yeah, that
I
was,
agree.
that was when we started talking about it. Who should be
Yes.
on it?
We also have a member from the community, a parent, that would like to that sent us an email that if there was a search. So we did get emails, and, you know, we're definitely going to include everybody.
Yep. Kathy?
I would just caution the committee, as you have started this discussion about the entire school committee being the interview committee, having participated in quite a few interviews this summer and previous to then, you need to think about how many people are asking the questions. And I'll be honest, with all due respect to the other members of the public, 12 of you, each one question apiece, you're looking at an hour and a half to 2-hour interview, unless your candidates are very, very, very succinct. And so I just caution you that if you're gonna invite members of the public, if you're gonna have an administrator, you really need to think about how many people are really gonna be asking the questions, and how many people then might just be sitting in the audience shaking their heads.
Right. Thank you, Kathy. Any other comments?
Can, Julie, could you just
Oh, sorry.
repeat?
Oh,
what
Robin
the
and Raina.
audience
Go ahead,
comments-
Raina.
We can't hear the audience's comments, online, so if you could just repeat what the comments were.
Oh, okay. And I'm receiving I think Robin's calling me. Robin, are you calling me? Oh. This is the wackiest way to do it. Go ahead, Robin.
Two things, Lee. Two things. We can limit the amount of questions. Not everybody there has to ask a question. We can limit that, but they can certainly participate and be there. The other thing is I'm going to leave this meeting and I'm going to come back in. So can you let me back in? I'm going to see if I can fix my audio.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Yep. And then, Anne, your hand is raised.
Oh, I was just going to say the same thing. I can't hear a word of the audience comments, so if you could recap.
They'd like to come up and use the mic.
Yep. Okay, we will have the audience come to the microphone to speak from now on. Thank you for
also,
letting us know.
They're not on camera, so if they could say their full name so I know who they are.
Yep. Okay.
You want to just repeat what she said?
I can do my very best. Or Kelly, do you want to come to the mic quick? Thank you. I appreciate that.
My name is Dr. Kelly Carrier, and I'm the principal at Bernardston Elementary School. I asked if it would be possible to have an interview.
Can't hear.
Just kidding.
Be really close to that one.
You have to be really close to that one?
You gotta eat it.
Pull it closer.
Can you hear me now? Perfect. My name is Dr. Kelly Carrier, and I'm the principal at Bernardston Elementary School. My question was in regards to the search process and if administration, the principals and additional, like the SPED director and stuff like that, to be able to be a part of the interview process. And your answer was yes. So that was my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Kathy, you impressed upon us the importance of essentially the interview not being so overwhelming with the amount of folks that we have. We did recently have an interview with the finance director position. I think that we did a good job of keeping it as thank you, as possible. It is very difficult with a large committee, so appreciate that feedback. Speaking of feedback, my mic. Anyway. Okay, so that concludes agenda item number 2 as far as the search process.
I think
Yeah,
we have done 3 and 4 also, if you look at them.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, we did 4.
And the search committee right now is.
The school committee.
Yep.
Great.
Say something on the other.
Yes. Okay, so are there any more questions from the Jane?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jane. Ooh. I don't know why I have.
That means I have to come up here too.
Yes. Thank you.
Bernardston Finance Committee. My question is, are you going to do a round of interviews and then are you going to whittle that down and perhaps have 2 or 3 that you introduce to the public before you vote?
That's a good question. So,
Certainly something that, I believe that's something we'll consider definitely.
Mike?
I think Glenn Kuchar will guide you. It may be pared down prior to coming to the public, based on their qualifications. So that's how we did it with the finance, through the interview so far. So I think that'll work out fine. The other thing, if we have the whole committee here for the interviews, for that search, maybe 6 of us can be asking questions and we can pull 6 people in from the public, whether town officials or a parent and administration. And I don't mind sitting back and making sure that the other people get to ask their questions. So I think we may have all the same, pretty much close to the same idea of some questions. The administration will have their questions that they typically would ask, but I have no problem paring it down on our side too, to do 6 of us and maybe 6 of the people from the public.
David?
I did not move that we have an abbreviated process in search of an interim committee in order to save the fee from the School Committee Association. I did it because of consideration of where we find ourselves today in time.
Yeah.
This is not going to be
Yeah.
a traditional process, and the answer may be no.
Yeah, I was thinking along those lines, that this is not that there's not tremendous value in this position, but we also have the guidance of the MASC, who will be able to pre-screen the candidates as well, and they will give their recommendation if they should be interviewed. I'm sure we'll have full autonomy over that as well, but you know, some will be eliminated just with qualifications and such. Okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion? Karen?
Yes, and this regards the finance director position. It came to my attention just a day or two ago that there had been ongoing discussions between among the superintendent, Rick Kingsley, Jay Sullivan, Joanne Blyer, and the superintendent at Gil Montague about sharing at least some part of the finance director position, and that the people at Gil Montague were very open to that. And I was wondering why we were never told that.
Okay, Mike?
So I can tell you basically the whole story behind that, and I'll send you the emails that correlate with that this evening if you'd like.
Please do.
I can. So we didn't have a posting for the finance director. So I reached out to Rick Kingsley, and I believe John in the same email, and asked what was going on. John was on email, so I think it kicked it back that he was out, and she was on vacation as well. So Rick Kingsley responded back to me and explained that Desi, not Rick Kingsley, but Desi had reached out to Gil Montague. They didn't reach out to Pioneer Valley School Committee. They reached out to the superintendent of Gil Montague and the school committee chair. So that's what transpired. So they never, in the emails that I sent out, which I can send to you, we can't bring them up here because that'd be a violation of meeting law because people can't see it. So Desi never, after I asked them why they didn't come to us also. So they still haven't come to us. And we spoke with Jay Sullivan and Rick Kingsley yesterday regarding the process. And in that original email thread, Rick Kingsley said that he probably wouldn't recommend it to the state because we're short on time. So, but they had never come to us. Maybe that's why Rick was going to say to Desi that he wouldn't recommend, because he recommends to Desi what he sees that we should do. He didn't do that. And Desi didn't approach Julie or I regarding conversation. And we couldn't bring it up at a school committee meeting that they were having conversations because I didn't know, and I believe Rick even advised that they haven't had a meeting yet. So if we said something here without Desi asking us formally, we could potentially create a problem for them because we would have known before they actually talked to their full school committee. So I can send all the emails. You can talk with Rick Kingsley, and he'll bring you up to speed on that. But Desi did not come to Pioneer Valley School Committee and ask us.
Did they ask the superintendent?
Desi did not come to the superintendent, and one of the things I asked to Rick Kingsley, did Desi tell the superintendent not to post the position? And Rick Kingsley said Desi did not tell John not to post that position.
But did they
I don't know those conversations.
facilitate any discussion with Gil Montague and our superintendent?
those questions are between Rick Kingsley and John. I don't know what their conversations were, but I wasn't told that.
Alan?
Do you remember the radio show Paul Harvey?
Yes.
I feel like Paul Harvey now.
Now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, here's the rest of the story. So I became aware that there was a potential that there was some conversation to test the water. So I was able to talk directly to Rick Kingsley, caught him on vacation, just for a few minutes to kind of clear up in my mind, what had happened. He was very professional and very, I'll use the word careful in how he relayed the information. So this was a little bit ago, so I'll do my best. But the gist of it was that they reached out to, Desi reached out to Gil Montague because they are the ones that hold the grant. And so as the grant writers that the grant was awarded to them, they reached out to them to see would there be any interest. There was an interest that were willing to talk about it. When I tried to engage in the conversation about, well, what are they feeling now? It's not going anywhere. So I think they reached a conclusion that maybe a normal person would reach, and they based it on this. The words were, well, there was some pushback on whether or not we should share, and neither of us decided to go into detail on that. So I just left it at that. There was some pushback about the Pioneer willing to share. So I just left that. The second part was that that they saw the posting, and I think it was more about the posting than it was about any pushback, because who knows how someone can interpret, someone's words in a conversation about are they for it or against it. So I think they basically based their decision that it wasn't going anywhere based on once a conversation was had, and then they saw the posting, they made the assumption that the school committee didn't have an interest in moving it forward. They saw the posting and they decided to move forward. And so that was sort of like the end of the story. I think some interesting things, had occurred, and it happened at a really kind of difficult time, in that all this was swirling around when the chair of the committee was on vacation. And so, some of the emails and the things going back about, we reached out and now its conclusion is Pioneer's not interested, was an assumption that was made. And Julie, you were on vacation, and we really haven't had a meeting for you to share, what your role was, or whether it be more active or limited. When we're through this, however, I think the takeaway should be that Desi was open to the idea, that Gil Montague was open to the idea, and I want to make a distinction. We are not talking about, like a merger. We're not talking about creating a new district. And I think that, and it is relevant, so let me make this comment. I do think we may find there's some really strong educational advantages if there was a creation of a new district with courses and offerings. But that said, I did write a letter from the Six-Town Regional Planning Board to the state and said to them that financially, it would not be beneficial to the towns to form a new district, and it wouldn't be financially beneficial to the finances of a new district. Under the existing formula, Chapter 70 formula, it appears that we may be hurt by that, and in fact, we would just be a bigger district with the same problem. So they were given communication from me on behalf of the Six-Town Regional Planning Board to put the ball in their court and said, basically say, if you're encouraging districts to look at becoming bigger, how are you going to fund them? Are you going to make changes to the education reform formula? If you do, it should be for everyone across the state. Are you going to carve out and do something special? And if you do for us, you may have to do for others. So I'm wondering if there is some thought process now about maybe that's not a good idea to start bringing together larger districts in doing this, if they're not going to touch the formula. But perhaps they're seeing now there might be a benefit for cost sharing, where you have central office services, whether they're provided by special education or a business administrator or a superintendent. They might be seeing the value of that. Now, I do not think, and this is my personal opinion, I get where I'm sure he passed on to you, Mike, that we wouldn't have time. You know, this could be a 2 or 3 month process. I wish I was part of the phone conversation, because I would have been talking about, I'm not so sure that's the case, because we're only talking about a business administrator, if we go that route, that would be handling all of the business functions. With someone certified, someone that knows what they're doing, and I think could be a real plus for this district at this point in time. If you hire an experienced superintendent that's working with this person, we would have information about, does a model of sharing, not merging, but does a model of sharing have merit? Did it work? Did it not work? What would need to happen to make it work better? All that information could be vetted out at the various school committee meetings. It could be, and there might even be a joint school committee meeting. It could be vetted out when you actually have your full-time superintendent on board to, you know, weigh in on that and so forth. So I think there's a lot of merit to it. I have not done anything yet, because Joanne was out, and so there was information I needed from her to move forward with the process of doing reference checks. But there was an email that sort of made me step back and say, if I shouldn't be reaching out to Gil Montague, which I did before I got the email, because the committee didn't vote on it, then I probably shouldn't be reaching out and continuing the search until the committee votes on it, nor should I be reaching out to look at systems that are in place. So this is all relevant to this, because I felt that people were nodding their heads and in agreement when I was saying that I've had soft conversations, and I plan to continue those with Gil Montague, and that I would continue to reach out to the various management systems, and that I would continue to go forward with the search. So unless I misunderstood the nodding and people seemed to be in agreement, my plan was just to go forward in those 3 pathways, turn over every stone, and kind of report back and say, here's where we are. I would like to have, at least at this meeting, some direction on all 3 of those issues, because I've had a second conversation with Gil Montague, and certainly the business administrator is interested in the conversations. I wasn't able to connect with the superintendent yet. But I see the process as, if it looked like that there was support there and support here, the first thing that would happen is that the 2 chairs would get together, the superintendent and whomever from the committees, and they would just have a meeting around this. How much would it be, and what would the scope of service be? And if there was an agreement on that, I think you could pull this together fairly quickly, so that we had someone on board that was experienced. So I thank you for, you know, giving me the opportunity to sort of explain, you know, all of the backdrop to that, because it all does come together.
Thanks, Alan. So Robin has her hand raised. Mike, you had your hand raised. Oh, and David. Okay. Go ahead, Robin. Oh, we can't hear you. You gonna call me again? Okay, Robin.
I'm sorry, I came out and went back in. I've checked everything on my computer. I'm sure it's something I'm doing wrong, but I don't have a 12-year-old to help me, so. Alan actually answered my question. I also feel like at the last meeting that we had, that we kind of gave him like, yeah, go ahead and explore all those things. So I felt like he was going one way, but then he came back and he answered my question. Thanks.
Thanks, Robin. Mike and then David.
So after yesterday's conversation with Jay Sullivan and Rick Kingsley, correct me if I'm wrong, they said that typically a negotiation between Gil Montague and us would probably take 6 months. 6+ months.
To negotiate. Yep.
A deal like this, because there's a lot involved. We discussed, they have a new superintendent now. So does that mean that they're saying no to a shared superintendent? No, they needed a superintendent, so they hired one. If we need a superintendent, we're gonna hire one. If we need a finance director, we're in that process. And back before we started this, when I asked, what was it gonna get posted, in the emails, which I will send out, that it clearly shows that time and negotiations are not on our side. So their feeling is, as of yesterday, and the way we left it, we were hoping that we'd get more candidates for the finance director's position, and if we didn't, we could possibly offer this opportunity for our finance director's position to the person that we interviewed at the pay, offer her the pay that we were paying Tanya for 1 year, and allow her to get board certified, go before the board or get her certification. And after that first year, if she has her certification for the FY22 and FY23 budget, we would renegotiate. And they like that approach. So that's where we left it. That was with Desi, and that was with the overseer for the finance of our district.
David.
It seems to me like we're climbing into the same old ruts, and we've got an opportunity here to do things differently. I'd hate to see us use procedure to try to jam up new ideas. By my lights, this committee is on record as a matter of policy to pursue sharing options, and that we in fact directed the superintendent's schedule to do so. So why anybody is questioning any member reaching out in this direction is of concern to me. We've got opportunity here, and I think we need to look at all our options. I'm not sure doing the same thing the same way is the best available.
So I want to make a point of clarification. So when the question was raised as to if an individual member could have those discussions independent of the committee, I did ask our legal counsel the opinion on that, and I was told that any committee member is allowed to solicit information. So as long as it is under the principle of information gathering, that is allowed. As long as, and I then provided that clarification to the committee member that questioned the process, and it was understood. So I want to make clear that while I was on vacation, an email was sent to, I believe it was John, Rick, Tanya, and myself, and I was in line at Disney World and saw it come through, and it was I was learning, and with the language that was included was that Desi had reached out to the Gil Montague school. They said they had reached out to Gil Montague to begin preliminary discussions regarding the potential of shared services for the Director of Finance position. And they said we received permission for this from the school committee chair. So in line at Disney, I quickly wrote back a sentence and said, I did not, I personally did not give any authority. I would bring that to the committee to make that decision. And Rick then clarified that it was the Gil Montague School Committee chair that they had asked for permission from, because if they were interested, then it wouldn't need to go any further than that. That was the discussion. And then it's still been in discussion in the sense of what happened, because I inquired as to the process of the director of finance position being new in this role and knowing that the school committee does conduct this search. I said, what are next steps? And I was told by John that Rick Kingsley had asked that we hold off on the director of finance position as there was some things to be considered. Given that Rick Kingsley is our financial overseer, and given that this is a director of finance position, that seemed reasonable to me. I now know that the director of finance position is under the sole discretion of the committee to hire, but I was unaware of that process at that time. Rick explained today that even the process of gathering interest from Gil Montague regarding this took several weeks, and completely unbeknownst to anyone on this school committee. So I want to make that abundantly clear. So at this point, we have not been asked by Gil Montague or Desi to explore this as an option. I asked why the impression was made that we were not willing to participate in this conversation, and they said that they assumed because they saw our posting that was why we weren't interested. And I said, kindly, would you please reach out to me? I said, the horse's mouth is best. I said, I may be a miniature horse, but regardless, please reach out to me. And I really still don't understand how that process happened that way. So I felt that until we have information or even a possibility to share, I didn't believe that, well, for one, I was on vacation for a second time. It looks like I'm just a jet setter, but I'm really not. But, and then Alan had mentioned that he would be exploring those talks anyway. So I want everyone to have the reassurance that not a single member of this committee that I am aware of ever stopped any conversations with Gil Montague regarding any shared services that I am aware of. So, and on the phone with Rick Kingsley and Jay Sullivan, they did not state a single member did so either. It seemed as though they made an assumption when it was posted that that is the perceived pushback, I guess. And that's also in the emails, that it was assumed that we then were no longer interested. So we certainly, I discussed this, and I'm grateful that it was brought up, because certainly when you know better, you do better. I now know that with any kind of, let's hope we're not in this position again after we hire the director of finance position, but you know, I wasn't aware that, and we wasted valuable time. Essentially, that's how I feel, that there was a process going on behind the scenes that we weren't aware of. Alan?
So I think at this point, if it's the pleasure of the committee, I would like you to take a vote, because it's very powerful to be able to say, the Pioneer School Committee has authorized me to explore this with you, and if there seems to be merits that both districts can benefit, we would like to talk about it. And for this school committee to actually take that vote sends, I think, the right message that we're open to seeing what avenues that might lead to. And then that just puts that to bed. We don't have he said, she said, or what's swirling out there. we would have a conversation and then go to the next level. I think that in terms of process, and I would like to be on a call with you with Rick Kingsley and with Jay Sullivan
So I did
about
invite you
this.
to the one yesterday. It was very short notice.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to get your message in
Yes.
time. But I see this as feelers out there that would be the two chairs talking, potentially me involved since I'm supposed to be looking at a search and possibilities, their superintendent, and we just talk about what is it that they would do. And I think in talking to Joanne, she's very clear on what that would be, and I think it would satisfy all aspects of the business part. That has a lot of respect from a lot of folks that are in that position and at DESI.
Can you just refer to who you're speaking?
Joanne, I'm sorry, Joanne Blyer is the business administrator there.
Gil Montague.
At Gil Montague. And so we see what that would entail and how much would you be looking for. I think there, should be an amount obviously for her because she's picking that up and some compensation to their district. And it would, I think it would be under, with money left over to help with, if we need a little money for the interim, or if you're repurposing it to education, or you're doing it for whatever reason that would help to support this, this aspect of it. And if that conversation went well, then I would expect that their chair would bring it back to their committee, you would bring it back to this committee, and then we would have a chance to sort of vet it. And then eventually, fairly quickly, because they could call an emergency meeting. This is pretty important and timely. We could do the same. And then we could have a joint meeting. Or each committee separately approve of the scope and what it would entail and how much. I don't think it would take that long. But I'd like to have a conversation with the overseer and with Jay Sullivan to
Alan,
maybe help in their comfort level.
This is Ann here. and
Yeah,
I'll-
you didn't make a motion yet. There are a couple of other people that want to
Yeah.
speak.
So I would make a motion that the school committee, thank you, David, I got lost, that the school committee authorize me to pursue talks with Gil Montague with the possibility of sharing the business administrative services with their district and the Pioneer District.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Karen, discussion?
Who is the second, please?
Oh, Robin. Oh, boy, Robin. Here she's calling. Okay.
Okay, I'm confused again now because we posted a position. I mean, I think it was confusing anyway when we were posting positions and still kind of talking about, would we do an interim person? Would we hire a company? Would we do this? I just want to be sure that if this does pass, that it doesn't slow us down. Like, who wants to, like, why would we be interviewing? It just seems like kind of like a waste of time. I understand. I just thought we did. I don't know. I'm confused about this. I'm totally confused now because I thought that I thought we were interviewing. We were kind of looking at those things. I just don't know if this is going to slow us down the way Alan is talking about doing it, and yet I can understand why he'd want to do it like that. I just am completely confused about what this means for the postings that you just put out and for people applying for a job when we're looking at, you're publicly going to have to, say that you're now looking to merge with Gil Montague. You're not looking, but you're exploring that. But by the way, just in case that doesn't work, apply for the job. I don't know. It just seems weird.
Thanks, Robin. I'll just address that quickly as far as the posting is concerned, because when we learned that the posting had been held up with relation to exploring the services, and then it was never brought to us as something for us to explore, I contacted our legal counsel and said, well, and at the time, Rick Kingsley said, you're on a strict timeline, you should at least get the posting up. John agreed. I had our legal counsel look at the posting, and I was reassured that a posting was to gauge interest and to solicit applications. So that doesn't mean that other options can't be explored. It's, again, it wasn't meant to shut down any process. And we talked about that at our first Director of Finance subcommittee meeting and in the subsequent meeting. Alan has now brought this up at 2 meetings about his discussions with Gil Montague. That first one and then our last meeting. So I hope that helps to clarify some, Robin, that in my opinion, I believe that we should continue with the interview process and certainly interview any more candidates that come along. Rick Kingsley and Jay were very clear that they thought this would take 6+ months to get into place with Gil Montague. They said, you either have an interim director of finance, or if you do hire, consider a 1 or 2 year contract with someone, but to continue these discussions. These discussions do not need to stop just because we hire someone either. So, you see what I mean? Because this process can take a very long time when you're talking about sharing services with other districts. I also raised the point of, with Gil Montague, could this be another district? Someone had mentioned perhaps Greenfield, and they said, absolutely, like any district, like what they're saying is,
Look at sharing.
they encourage everyone to look at sharing, So, I hope that provides a little bit of clarification. Okay, good. Thanks, Robin.
Oh, okay, she's happy with that.
Yep. Oh, someone else?
I thought Raina had a question.
Okay. No, we're just looking at Raina, okay. So there was a motion, and it's almost 9, and I called myself a miniature horse tonight, so I'm getting tired. It's been over 2 hours is like my limit with these meetings.
Yes, Karen O'Neill.
And there was a second.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, any further discussion? No? Okay.
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
David Young, yes.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, no.
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Michelle Geruso, Leiden, yes.
Robin? She's saying yes. Thumbs up, yes. Raina? Are you saying yes? You can do a thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't appear that Jim is still online.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe. And Julie Burke Northfield, yes. Okay, so any other business?
There is.
Okay.
So can I assume, so we don't have to do this through a motion, that I will continue to check out the references and move forward with that? And we will continue to explore any of the services that might be out there that could be providing the business services for a month or two, or whatever. I haven't done either of those yet. I can start that tomorrow. So unless there's an objection, I'll assume that has the blessing of the committee.
So just to be clear, you're going to sign of the cross. Just to be clear, you're also going to explore or reach out to a service that could potentially provide and figure out cost and whatnot associated with
I won't get
those.
into a lot of detail yet. I'll just find out who's available, how
Okay.
much, and what would their scope be, and then just see if the committee has an interest.
And Rick and Jay also did mention you may want to consider a local accounting firm. Sometimes they take on school businesses on an interim basis as well, if we're having, so.
Right, and I don't think that's privileged, if people put that out there. So two companies did reach out and said, we're interested. So
Oh, okay.
I haven't done anything with that because I wanted to make sure I wasn't overstepping my authority.
Okay. Lois,
Yes. Lois Stearns, Chair, Northfield Finance Committee. I
Oh,
have
boy.
just one concern, and I don't think you can resolve it tonight. It's just that there are two terms being considered here. I think we're required to have a business manager. Some of you call it business managers. Some of you call it that we're looking for a finance director. Now, my understanding was that Desi made the exception because Tanya was not certified as a business manager, so we could call her finance director while she worked on the certification. Now she's moved, of course, that's out. So I think our goal should be hiring a business manager or someone who will work toward being certified. We're not looking for a long-term finance director, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. So just to summarize, you were very, very quiet at the beginning, Lois, due to the speaker and whatnot. But your recommendation is to either look at the possibility of an interim at this point, and not keep our focus on a permanent position at this time. Did I do that right? Is that what
I think she was distinguishing between finance director and business manager, and we don't need.
And those terms are used interchangeably.
No.
Well, no, I'm seeing them used interchangeably. Technically, we're asking for a director of finance, correct?
Right, but you're really asking for a business administrator. They go by different names. As a matter of fact, I think Joanne Blyer's title is even though she's a certified business manager, I think her title is Director of Business and Finance or something like that.
When we did the position, we
So
did
finance
director of,
is not our
of finance, director of finance, because Tanya did not have her certification,
Right.
which is a business manager would have the certification.
Right. So if you have the title, no matter what, you have to have the BA unless you get a waiver. So, and then districts can call it whatever they want. I had one other pretty important clarification.
Okay, it's almost 9.
Yeah, my last clarification.
Oh, 1 second here. So I wanted to give Kevin the opportunity. We are in the other business section at this point.
Yeah.
Might want to pull that a little closer.
No.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Kevin Burke. I'm the principal of Pioneer Valley Regional. The one question I have, and I know the administration is concerned about, is with our superintendent leaving, I believe on the 11th is his last.
10th.
The 10th is his last day. At that point, who do we go to? I mean, we have school that begins. We have district stuff that needs to be determined. It's great that you have determined to move forward with an interim. I think that's great. But there's still going to be that time where we don't have a superintendent. And I think as an administration, we want to know who do we go to and how do we finalize decisions.
Thank you, Kevin. Very important question. And
So it's an interesting question, and it's a little bit disappointing that you're asking the question, and that when someone knows, even if they have a couple of weeks, that they're leaving, that they would meet with the administrative team and they would talk about here are the things that are still need to be addressed. Let's talk as a group to formulate how we will move forward and address them. I might be recommending to the committee that we designate somebody to, sort of be the point person. So a few things would be put in place and the administrative team would feel a little more comfortable about acting together as a group, and you formulated a plan. I'm to hear that the chair and the vice chair are having conversations of trying to figure that out. I feel badly that you're in that position. I think that you shouldn't have been, and that should have been handled administratively as a group. Perhaps will be a question for Glenn. Maybe you've already had a conversation about the interim in the next couple of weeks. Is there someone that can at least coordinate that activity.
Mike?
So I reached out to Julie, I think Friday, just as a courtesy to our administration, to see if there was a plan or if the superintendent had talked with them. And if there wasn't a plan or there was no guidance, what I was proposing was possibly to go see what the need was, or to facilitate who would be in charge for that short term. That was just a courtesy to the administration. So we haven't acted on that yet. We were actually going to talk to the full school committee and see what the plan would be. So my concern is we need to hear what the concerns are from the principals from each school and central office to understand where we're at. And maybe one of them would get put in charge temporarily. But we were going to bring it to the school committee.
I did, after receiving John's resignation, ask for a comprehensive list of what was outstanding. And several days later, I received a reply that basically just said the Warwick, or the regional agreement contract is still outstanding, along with the Warwick. Yep. And that was all. So that's what I received from John when I asked for a comprehensive list of outstanding items. So certainly I'm grateful that you posed the question. Just from a basic business standpoint, obviously there needs to be someone appointed in charge, boots on the ground, that can attend to business. Like we said, we certainly hope if the posting can go up tomorrow, and we can, I know it's tight. It's a very unfortunate time of year to have this happen. David and then Jeannie.
Somebody does need to be in charge after John's last day, and the full school committee needs to make that appointment. It's not up to the chairman or what have you. So we need to get this. If John's last day is the 10th, we need to have this settled. You saw me perhaps stand up and wander out a minute ago. I was looking for Kathy Hawkins to ask her if she was that person for a short period of time. I would hope there's somebody in the organization that...
Oh, there she is.
Oh, man. She just was hiding from me, huh? I'm used to it.
Okay.
I have a comment to
Yep. Jeannie.
Have the principals reached out to John for a meeting, and have you not received a response?
They did.
Principal at Bernardston Elementary. We did reach out and ask for a meeting to happen this week, and we were notified it would happen on Monday, and that it's between, it's a 1 hour meeting.
Next Monday?
Yeah.
And it's a 1 hour meeting with John?
Correct. And so unfortunately, some of our administration goes on vacation and hasn't taken a vacation, and so they'll be out of the area. So not all principals are able to attend that meeting, so it was requested again to have it earlier, and we were informed that it was Monday. So there's a little bit of apprehensiveness in us all,
I'm
sure
there's a lot of anxiety.
Just around questions around other things that haven't happened yet for certain buildings, and just a part of having other people and other directors either be out or not employed at this time. So it complicates our ability to get the schools open and running.
Thank you, Dr. Carrier. Carrier.
Yes,
Carrier. Alan.
So I guess this is two parts. Is there someone that holds the superintendent certification that's an administrator in the district? Does someone know?
I think pretty much any of us could officially hold one for what we've done. It would really require a license through DESE, but in order for you to hold a superintendent license, you need to have professional status, pass your MPL, work on the professional status for 3 years.
Right. No, I just wonder if someone did that.
I believe that
it's not uncommon for a principal to hold superintendent certification. So that's why I asked that question, because that would have made this process perhaps a little bit easier for a point person, going forward, because sooner than later, because then we could then have, you have the resource of MASS would be a free resource for getting answers to questions to help guide that person. So that is something that needs to be addressed sooner than later. So if we do have that ability, we should be thinking about who might be a good resource for that.
Mike?
I see some confusion on the principals' faces when David made that statement. And he's out of the room now, which is disturbing. I'm wondering if Kathy Hawkins Harrison made note that there was 2 people that were interested in their local. Could we have an emergency meeting next week and have those 2 people come and maybe do an interim, short-term position for immediate
A pre-interim?
I mean, we got to do something, and there's people that are
Emergency
qualified
interim?
that are offering to step up. I think that, I'm sure the principals are capable of doing it, but I don't know how they feel about if somebody local was offering to come to do it, short-term, interim, until we could get somebody in place. Come on up, Kevin.
I don't necessarily want to put this person on the spot, but I know there is actually a resident in Northfield who has a lot of superintendent experience that might be willing to do this on a, I guess, pre-interim position, however you want to call it. And I think maybe reaching out to that person and seeing if they'd be willing to do it might be a good direction to go. I've only heard recently about her today. I don't know that much information, but being the fact that she is a Northfield resident does have interest in our district, and I believe reached out and said is interested. So I think going that avenue might be a great idea.
Thank you, Kevin. Mike. Sorry, Mike, then Jeannie.
No, I was going to say, I think, to respond to Kevin, that give her a call.
She's right here.
She's right here. Don't give her a call. Come and speak to us, please.
Yeah, I would make a motion. I would make a motion that we ask the chair to reach out, find out that person, reach out to that person.
She's here.
She's
Right
here.
there.
Or take a 5-minute recess
Well,
and then come back.
Okay, so, I'm also curious, though, first, is there anyone currently employed by the district that has an interest to serve in this capacity for even a pre-interim time? We don't want to just necessarily say, how about you? Which I think may have just happened. First of all, I would like to know if there is any interest.
I would entertain a discussion.
So, Dr. Carrier?
Yes, I would entertain a discussion around what that would actually look like, to have more understanding, to be able to make the best decision. And I am available to talk about it this week, if you.
All right, thank you. Robin, you have your hand raised, and I will expect your phone call. Go for it.
Hi. So are we really in a situation that we have to do an interim? I mean, I'm just from a management point of view. I mean, we have people in our administrative office that certainly can, should be able to administer. I mean, what if our superintendent were to have gotten sick and hadn't actually left? There must be, it just seems to me like there must be people in the central office that know what needs to be done to open school. And I think that we're running around spinning our wheels when, there should be people that certainly know what has to be done to open the building, certainly know what has to be done as far as ordering. And in the meantime, you know, we're working really quick to get somebody in there and to help them out. But I'm curious as to why we don't have an administration that can say, okay, we're opening school. These are the things that we need to do. We've done it every year for the last 10 years. Let's just do it. Why are we doing this?
Okay. I just quickly wanted to add, I think that every team needs a point person, just generally speaking. We need at least a point of contact. So, you know, if there's no structure, then there's no order, and I think that can be difficult. She's calling back. Go ahead, Robin.
Well,
Mute herself, her computer.
I understand that, Julie. I know what you're saying about a point person, but it seems to me like the point person is probably already in the office, and couldn't we just make that the point person? Why does it have to be, I mean, it's only going to be temporary, and if we run into another situation, then obviously we'll have to do something more. But, you know, you're looking at somebody who they say, all right, I have to order this. Can you make sure this is ordered? Like, isn't there, what about Joanne in the main office? Is that anything that she would take on, or even someone? Okay, that didn't go over well.
Okay.
Okay. It just seems like, you know, getting an interim, and then it seems like this school should be able to open.
Okay.
Am I missing something again?
Thanks, Robin. I'm gonna move to Raina because she's just here on the screen. I do see hands raised. I promise we'll get to everyone. Raina.
Yeah, so I mean, partly to echo what Robin just said, I feel like I don't think we should be looking outside of who's already currently employed in the district. I feel like there should be someone within the administrative team who can be the point person, who can be the go-to to be able to make decisions and to problem solve any issues that come up. I agree, you know, that there are procedures, and, you know, there are things we're going to have to work out this year. It's going to be not quite as hard as last year, but there's still going to be more complicated than a normal year. But there should be someone within the administrative team who can be that point person. We shouldn't be looking outside at this late date.
Thanks, Raina. One quick question. Is there an org chart? Do you have an organization chart
I was just going to say that.
of who is? Yep.
Fontaine, I'm the special education administrator, and right now, there typically would be a hierarchy.
Yes.
Of who comes after the superintendent, but that would typically be the director of finance, who's no longer here. We're also missing our director of facilities, who's out on medical leave. We are also missing director of technology. So that leaves me as sort of the only full-time central office administrator left. Our curriculum coordinator is, she doesn't work all 12 months. So, you know, I would anticipate that the principals and I will be doing everything that we can to pull up the bootstraps, but they all have buildings that they need to open, as well as, you know, I mean, we're already spread very thin. So as far as somebody else in the central office.
Well, hold on, because we had other questions.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Mike, and then Jeannie, you had, no, David. And then Alan.
I had my hand up.
Oh, and Michelle, okay.
So, sitting here looking into the audience and seeing multiple people shake their heads no, and they're part of the admin team, that is concerning to me. So I think I'm gonna make a motion that we take a recess and consider the person that's offering the services and have a discussion on that, because we really need a point person. We got multiple schools that need to be open. There's work that needs to be done on them. The principals need to get their setup organized. We're short on time, and I don't like to see the admin team stressed, and it's already stressful enough after what we've been through the last 12 months.
Sure.
That's a motion.
So your motion is to take a 5-minute recess to discuss
The person that's
step forward to say that she could potentially serve in that
Dr.
capacity.
Interim superintendent.
Who is that?
Yeah.
The member of the yeah.
Well, we want to discuss what, if we want to do that, then that person, we come back out from recess and then have that person step forward, who's here.
Well, who is that person
Who is
you're
that
talking
person?
about?
Come up to the microphone, please.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Dr.
Carrier.
Carrier.
That's why I
No, I was
asked.
talking- No, I'm talking
Therefore, all
about
the
the
questions.
Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, but we don't know anything about her.
We're
I
gonna,
don't-
Yeah, but-
We should probably take a 5-minute
Yeah,
recess.
yeah. you
Sorry,
gotta-
sorry.
Favor of 5
Right.
recess.
Right.
bring out the name.
I would object
I
to
would-
having a recess. I would object to having a recess.
Yeah, I thought you wanted a recess.
No, not under those terms. I think that, when I'm looking at the hierarchy, and she's absolutely right, if I were in that position, it would be the director of finance, and then it would be the special education director. I would rather have, we have competent principals, but to do this as a point person and be opening a building and be thinking about how's the state going to roll out what you can and can't do regarding COVID and all the other things, to me, the person that really should be doing this would be the director of special education. So if she has no interest, I get it, but that is, I would rather have that route than having a building principal. So I just wanted to say that. If you want to have a recess and do something else, I think that I'm feeling like we're getting to a knee-jerk kind of reaction here,
Right,
and you
I
have
do
a
too.
meeting next week, and let everyone have a chance to let this all marinate, and then decide next week how you want to proceed. And the
Adam-
administrators should be able to do their role in the next few days.
Adam has his hand raised, so maybe he can provide us some clarification.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think you could have this recess and discussion without violating the open meeting laws of groups. So
Right.
I would suggest you just continue the meeting.
Okay. I appreciate that. I was going to ask that. He said any kind of recess would be in violation of open meeting law.
Yeah.
So we just continue with our meeting.
Well,
Thank you.
any discussion as a group certainly would need to be part of the open meeting here, so.
Yeah, you're having a
Correct. Okay, thank you. David.
We need more than a point person. We need a person in charge, and we need a person who's in charge under the authority of the school committee. We don't need any Al Haig moments. I'm in charge here. It was, we
Are you
don't need
dating
any
yourself? I
dotted
don't know
lines. I
what
really
that reference
appreciate
is.
the reference to the organizational chart. There needs to be clear and solid
Yes.
lines. Who's in charge under the authority of the school committee? Sounds silly to have an interim, but someone needs to be in charge.
Jane.
I seem to recall from prior discussions months ago that legally you must have an appointed superintendent. The fact that a superintendent gets sick and somebody takes over his responsibilities, you still have a named superintendent. But what you're facing is no superintendent, and I
Right.
think that's not legal.
Adam, could you provide that clarification for us?
Yeah, I mean, going without a superintendent in a short-term emergency period is not going to be an issue legally. Quite often, what will happen, what you're talking about, is someone within the district is, appointed that interim role to be the point person, and there's some discussion about compensation or otherwise that would happen around that. But I think if that's the direction you want to go, you could appoint somebody to discuss that with people within the school or whoever, whoever you think that would be appropriate for that kind of role. If you think the search is going to be, a longer search, and I'm not sure how long your posting is going to be or what your timeline is in this interim search.
Kathy. You need to come up to the mic, sorry.
When it's appropriate, I'd like to ask for permission to give just a very brief background on the Northfield resident that Mr. Burke spoke of. We're talking about the need of someone who could come in tomorrow. We're talking about the need for someone who has experience, and we're talking preferably someone who has the appropriate licensure and so on. And when you're at the point in your discussion where I might give that brief introduction of that person, I'd be happy to do so.
I believe we're at that point, unless there's an objection.
Do we know that that person is, I mean, I would caution to put a name out there unless that person has expressed an interest to, because you're a third party now bringing information, and I'm concerned about that.
So point of order, this person has reached out to me last evening expressing interest to be considered, or I'd like to know more about an interim superintendent role perhaps.
So she's given permission for you to put this all out publicly?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a resume or anything in writing that?
I do. This wasn't, I wasn't expecting this to happen this evening. We were discussing the position. There's also, in full transparency, someone, one of the candidates that Glenn Kuchar mentioned reached out to me last evening as well, saying I would like to know, I'd like to be considered for the position. And I let that individual know that we would be having a meeting tonight to discuss it, and that a posting would be forthcoming. So that is where, so 2 people have expressed interest thus far, and 1 happens to be here this evening.
In fairness to the 2 people, you ought to schedule a meeting next week and interview the 2 people.
David?
No, in fairness to our school district, I think we ought to take a look at what's before us.
I agree.
Yeah, Adam, I'm looking for clarification here. So the situation that we're presented with, just to clarify, is 2 people have come forward expressing interest to me that they have, one said that they had an interest in the superintendent position, and the other individual said that she had an interest in the interim superintendent position. I informed them both that we would be having a full school committee meeting tonight to discuss that very topic. And one of the candidates is here this evening. So could you please advise us on next steps, if she is willing to come forward and express her interest?
So it sounds like what I understood your meeting tonight was the process you had laid out was you were going through MASC, you were doing their search for an interim. So now you're talking about going in, are you saying you're looking at an interim, or are you saying that you want to consider somebody?
So I'll forever regret coining that term, but yeah, so as part of new business, it got brought up by school administration that we need a point person for the space between the superintendent's last day of August 10th and the appointment of the interim superintendent, the future interim superintendent. The suggestion was made that perhaps, 2 suggestions were made. Either it is appointed from within according to like an organizational chart, or if it were allowed to hear from one of the interim superintendent, someone who's expressed interest in that, in order for them to serve in that capacity from August 10th, while also exploring the formal process of the interim superintendent search. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
So I think as Glenn kind of indicated in his discussion, you should look at every avenue you can avail.
Sorry, Adam, can you say that one more time?
I said, and I would agree with Glenn's general statement when he was advising you on this, which is you should keep every avenue available, and the chair should be in discussion with whomever you can be in contact with about the options that are available, and that may be that you have someone locally that you identify as someone that you want to bring forward as a chair for the district's consideration. I don't know if you can do that today. I think we're probably way outside of any agenda item that you had posted. So I would recommend that if you have an option that you think may be a near-term solution and the best solution in your mind, that you bring that to the committee in a meeting under an agenda item that would be appropriate.
Okay. Thank you, Adam.
Sure.
So if I got that right, then we should continue with the process of getting the posting for the interim superintendent. We should continue, and from what I understand, we want that process to be very tight. I mean, that time frame to be tight. I know that Glenn had mentioned a 2-week period. I believe that, or was it 1 week period?
No, he said 1 week.
He said 1 week, okay. So if we've already voted to move in that direction, so it will be posted tomorrow and will close in 1 week's time. I will,
Julie?
these administrators still need someone.
Julie?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
You have a meeting on the 12th, scheduled for the 12th.
Yes, we do.
The 10th is the last day.
Yes.
So there's still ample time to, on the 12th, make that appointment.
So Adam's
And-
nodding his head yes. So 48 hours without a superintendent named is okay?
I
Okay,
would hope
okay.
so.
No, I'm saying I'm a rule follower, I really am.
Well, I would hope, yeah.
So what I'm saying is I thought that I heard that you're not allowed to ever be without a superintendent.
No. I don't.
Okay, thank you. All right, it's late. All right, good. Okay. All right. What did we decide? We're going to go ahead with the posting. That will close on, if it's posted tomorrow, that is Wednesday.
It closes on the 10th.
Close on the 10th, and then our meeting is on?
The 12th.
The 12th. Jeannie?
I would highly encourage anyone who's in this room who would consider being an interim superintendent to send their resume to Julie Burke.
Already done. But I would encourage anyone to look out for the posting tomorrow and formally apply for the interim superintendent position.
Where will MASC do the posting? That's the question.
Right, they had made it clear, I thought they made it clear, that they're
There
going
was-
to, MASC would do their own, they would also put it out with the Superintendent's Association. Each superintendent also puts that out within their district, so it really
Something
does
that
have
gets a million
depth and
hits
breadth,
a
yeah,
year or a
fast.
month or something, so.
Yeah. I had one important item.
One more item from Alan.
I just want to, just as a pickup from last meeting, just a comment, because I don't want anyone's feelings to be hurt. In that we had said at the meeting that, and so I'm just following that up, that after our last meeting, 2 meetings ago, that it would be posted immediately for the business administrator. And so I followed that up to see how that worked, and I talked to Joanne, who wanted to make sure that, people understood. She immediately responded. She put it out there as we directed. So what I learned from her, and I wish I had talked to her about this so I could have understand how Indeed worked. What she did was this. She put out the original posting. When we decided that we were going to establish the salary, she went to the original posting, which was way back before our meeting, so probably 3 weeks ago, and she put the salary in the original one for people that are going there. Indeed has a process that they also allow you to actually put it in and pull it out on a day-to-day basis. So she also put it in again so it would appear and people could see it as a new posting with the salary. And so that was where the confusion came, where you saw it posted with a certain date and might have thought maybe it didn't happen before. She's an amazing person, very, very efficient. She had indicated to me that, no, she did it right away, and so we were just following it up. I did have a chance to talk to Jeannie about it, and Jeannie's issue was nothing to do with her integrity, whatever. It was to understand the process of how Indeed worked. So I'm just putting it out there for clarification, so everyone understood that it did get posted, and Indeed does have a little funky way that they allow for postings to go on and come off.
I think you mean School Spring.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I hope I didn't give a plug for Indeed. School Spring.
And Joanne had also said that she reposted it on, what is today? August 3rd. She reposted it this morning because when you repost, it will flush again out. So in case you're seeing it again with an August 3rd date, that is why.
Just to clarify, and I explained to Joanne, I never questioned whether or not she did it. I didn't know the process for
School Spring.
School Spring. That I was questioning their process right from the start.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Well, we have to have a motion to
I
adjourn.
move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Rob's
Okay,
got a
discuss.
hand up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But do we have to go through the roll call?
No, the record can show it was unanimous.
Oh, wait, Robin.
Oh, no.
I know. Robin, go.
All right, just really quick. I did pick up from the teacher that spoke that, they had requested to meet with Jonathan, and he can't meet with them until the 9th, and he's leaving on the 10th. Is there any way, Julie, that we could ask him to possibly try to rearrange his schedule so that he could meet with all of the principals? I mean, it seems like that would be a reasonable request. And, with 2 weeks' notice, I would expect you to at least be available for those 2 weeks. Thanks.
Yeah, he should be.
Thank you, Robin. I think that's a great point. Discussion around that.
I would give you my full support
Oh, yeah.
to approach John
Yeah.
about a meeting
Yep.
longer than 1 hour when all of the school administrators can be present.
Or even if you want us to.
And I'll even
Reach out.
I'll be at that meeting if you want. Probably don't want, but I'm offering.
Okay, I will send John an email and
In lieu of the short time we have till he leaves, I'm hoping he will come forward to meet with them to show his concern for the continuation and welfare of the district.
This week.
Correct.
And it would have to be this week.
Yeah.
Because teachers, some of the administrators do have planned vacation,
Vacations.
and they've worked very hard this year, and they need to have time off.
Yep, I will certainly do that.
Good.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We will adjourn.
Did I give you one?
Thank you, everyone.
you,
Thank you, Julie.